miss anyone? Any other breakout? And otherwise, we're going to switch over to industry, emerging industries. Thank you. And you have Dekai. You're going to kick us off again. Come on up. Many of you know Professor Dekai. We met him in Berkeley and Stanford. And if you could put the panel slide up, let's say we've got other people representing industries. It helps me when I see it. Can you put the panel slide up? Oh, well, can you reference the, if you're on the industries panel, if you could come up like Rich, thank you. You know who you are. Maisie, also in the AI sphere, just flew in from Singapore. You would never have known it. She's on her 5th coffee. Any other industries, I'll find you. But that's, last time in October, Dekai, you kicked us off, and you sort of made us feel very depressed.
Hope is the message.
Yeah, I'm thinking what we might do, because it starts to depress us, is jaundices the rest of the panel.
Marcus Vincent.
That's actually at 4:30. But this is Josh Larson. I could, I feel like Serinda, why don't you come up and talk about your industry? I'm going to, rather than in the philanthropy side, you're going to bat cleanup, Dekai. And because he looks like he has prepared notes, as he's always so, I'm going to let you kick off,
Hey, Bob, we
Rich.
have 2 extra chairs. You need somebody else?
I know you're ready. So I'm going to start with you, Rich. How do you see things that excite and scare you in industries you focus on, and introduce yourself?
Okay, so I'm going to try to stay in one lane. First, a few words about my background. I have been a repeat founder, manager of lower mid-market private equity firms, and I've been a CEO, CIO of a large family office, and I've served on many boards, public and private companies. I basically am passionate about helping back entrepreneurs, founders, and emerging managers to build out their business, to build high-quality teams and profitable businesses. Over the course of my career, I've set up 5 funds, raised nearly $900 million, and currently I'm involved in a fund for blockchain. It's a $50 million early stage fund that invests in seed to Series B. It's called Polymorphic. In addition, on behalf of the family office, we've invested in emerging managers across an interesting spectrum. So I have some experience there. And together with Eddie Vanderpart, we've invested family office capital in about 10 early stage impact industry companies. So all of those things are quite exciting. Today I'll say a few words about blockchain and crypto. I think that we're at an exciting inflection point. I got involved in this because it struck me that the industry was bringing real value, improving the speed and the cost and the reliability of transactions in many ways for businesses and consumers. The U.S. has been a laggard in the introduction and use of many of these technologies because the SEC and its current regulatory framework has been hostile to these companies. And the industry's been continuing to progress. So it's not too early, but it's also not late. And on the news of the new administration being elected here, whatever you might think about their politics, they're clearly deregulation and pro-crypto industry. So the industry has rallied on the news, and liquid crypto digital assets have risen to roughly $3.5 trillion. And if you miss that rally, there are plenty of smaller private opportunities to access. And those are accessed predominantly through venture funds. So I think I got a couple of things to remind myself. One is the regulatory framework is expected to change. So I think that that's going to be very helpful to capital flowing. Second is there's a lot more going on than just Bitcoin. I was pleased to hear Tim Draper's comments earlier today. His views generally echo my own. What are the types of things that companies like Polymorphic are investing in? They're investing in payments and using stable coins, which is one of the killer apps that helps cross-border. It also helps small and medium-sized businesses to improve the efficacy of their payments and allows employees, contractors to receive their payments both in digital currencies as well as in fiat. It's helping particularly in emerging markets where currencies are volatile and financial systems are not that reliable. So remittance, for example, one company that we've invested in provides remittances from the United States to Africa. And those remittances not only help people get money quicker and cheaper, but they also use the information to improve the credit scores of the people sending the money, which provides big social impact for those people to be able to access other forms of financial services. Now, one other thing I'll say is, as someone who was involved in Russia, Russia was one of the most exciting places for many years. Now it's not, except for China. So everyone says, well, blockchain's great, but what about AI? Because everybody wants a piece of AI. Well, AI is great. Maybe it's overrated, whatever. I won't comment. But how's AI going to work? It's going to work through, to a large extent, blockchain-enabled systems where millions and billions of bots are talking to each other in a reliable, permissionless, smart contract way. The last thing I'll say is a big opportunity that's just beginning to come out of the ground is tokenization of securities, funds, and real-world assets. And so the licensing for this is taking hold. Business models are coming up. Investment banks will be disrupted. They will ultimately end up adopting or acquiring some of these platforms, but estimates say that upwards of $4 to $5 trillion of assets will be on tokens in the US and 10 to 15 billion around the world by 2030. So even if you cut that in half and push it out a few years, tokenization of real-world assets is another big play. So I'm hopeful that the new administration will fulfill some or all of its agenda on economic policy and regulatory change.
So while that would, you think I'm going to segue to you, Maisie, I'm actually going to pull back and let Surinder talk about your industry. You do touch on blockchain and AI and tech scalability, but you come from a different place.
I do. I actually come from a different panel as well, so this is going to be fun. Wonderful. Nice to see you guys all early. I was originally on the philanthropic panel, but it actually is sort of hand in hand with what we do. My name is Surinder Swan. I'm originally from Vancouver, Canada. I started my career as an actor and a director. I spend most of my days storytelling. And then in 2016, I had just taken a little break with acting and flown around the world and found different charities and causes that I cared about, and I was working with the UN, and they said, as an actor, you have to pick one cause. And I was like, what? They're like dolphins, the ocean, starvation. I was like, all seem pretty important, so I don't know if I want to pick just one. And then I realized what I could pick, which would be education, because I could cover all of them at the same time. And so I partnered with my co-founder, Andrew, who is going to be real surprised I'm talking right now. Oh, there you are, you just walked in, great. And so I partnered with Andrew, who comes from a tech background, and we looked at how do we redistribute donation dollars. We would see these big galas and these big events, and we would see all this money go sort of to preaching to the constituents. We'd have a gala, and it would be all adults, and they'd be talking about the issues in the world, and it never reached the children. And we needed to reach the children before they became the problem that we were trying to solve. So we worked together and we built a company called Deedly, which is Daily Deeds. And it is using information from storytelling. So we partner with some of the largest organizations like WWF or Charity Water, and then we worked with documentaries. And so we figured out how to cut documentaries down to little bite-sized pieces for kids. By watching those documentaries, they would do a quiz or an activity, and then they would earn donation dollars, real money, to donate in their name to the charity. And that was just temporarily redirecting funds that were coming from us. So we would donate $100 to Charity Water. Instead of going directly to them, it goes into a little Deedly account. We're a 501c3. So then your money, the full $100, goes right back to the charity, but just through the hearts and minds of kids first, educating the generation that's going to be the change. Because I always like to say we're one generation away from solving the problem. We just have to make sure they don't become it. So that's where we started in 2016. We built amazing technology. We launched in schools. Had an amazing first few months, and that was March of 2020. Schools shut down, everything stopped. So we had a couple $1 million in technology. We had amazing partners. We had a really great platform and didn't know what to do. And so actually we had an amazing conversation with Ron Dahl for the Center for Adolescent Brain Development out of Berkeley, who opened my eyes to the next issue that we were going to be coming up against, and that was mental health with kids. There was going to be a massive gap, and we didn't know what to do. And the answer, everything's pointing towards personalized learning. The issue is you have like a math class, right? So you have like one teacher, one equation, 30 kids. All you have to do is get to one answer. But when you have mental health, it's 30 kids, 30 equations, 30 answers, one teacher. So how do we bring personalized learning into the classroom? And so it's technology. And we're obviously looking away from like screens and trying to figure out how to integrate kids out into the wild a bit more. So Andrew and I looked at our technology and realized that we could white label it. We could actually make it into a company that taught personalized learning, or taught emotional intelligence through personalized learning. And the reason why we choose emotional intelligence is a lot of the mental health out there is really politicized. So you're looking at SEL, you're looking at resilience, you're looking at things like that. So we decided to go right back to the science and figure out how we could bring that education into the classroom in a way that was really engaging. And so we chose storytelling. And so that is my history. So we're basically a master class for kids. So we bring in influential people, they tell their story, and then we write state standard aligned curriculum for kids to be able to go through, which is mandated by the government. So we're now able to get into schools immediately. But we're seeing a crisis of 1 in 5 kids are having issues right now with mental health. And what we're seeing is a focus from the school systems to get people career ready. Now, there was a study done that 80% of all the jobs that are going to exist in 2030 don't currently exist now. So we are giving kids skill sets for jobs that don't yet exist, and what we need to be focusing on is the life skills to be able to adapt and to emotionally regulate. And so that's what we're investing in, because it is now becoming one of the highest indicators of success is a high EQ. And we are just kind of pushing things through IQ, which is really interesting because we look at AI. AI is one of the best places to outsource your IQ to. I can type something in and it pulls me back. I'm like, I am so smart based off of a prompt. But the EQ side is where we start to look and we're getting very interested in. So I can talk a little bit more later about the technology that we've put together, from flagging systems for children that are flagging for self-harm, and the AI systems that we're using in order to personalize that learning, but that's the side that we are. So most of the time I'm currently on a show called Reacher, which is not kid-friendly, so I'm running around, killing people with high heels, and the rest of the time, I know, trust me, it's a hard left. If anybody's seen the show, they know what I'm talking about. But this is my passion. I grew up with dyslexia, and I wasn't diagnosed until my mid-20s.
That part I really resonated when you explained that.
Killing people with shoes?
No.
Oh, dyslexia. Okay, great. We're about to find out something new from him.
This resonates too, but this is what you were talking about, your personal experience, because you're excelling with personalized education, and we were talking earlier about preschool to prison. There's this real big problem, particularly with boys.
Yes.
But let's pause.
I'm pausing.
And we'll come back to you. So, Maisie, you've heard these themes. Tell us how you look. A lot of times we think of AI, we think only about the U.S. And how should we be thinking globally about AI testing?
Well, there's huge opportunity. I mean, basically, PwC says that AI will add $15.7 trillion to the global economy by 2030, and that's spread all over the world.
How much?
15.7 trillion US dollars. I mean, and this is just from applications alone. So they actually did a deep dive of all various industries and applications, and they found that that's what AI applications will add to the global economy in 2030. And actually, between now and 2030, 55% of that will actually be in productivity gains, and then in 2030 itself, it's 58% will actually be ancillary. So I guess the early wins are productivity, and after that, you really get to use AI technology, and then that basically helps you in personalization and in basically in quality of the products. So I think, for us, we look at investing actually across the entire AI tech stack, because I'm going to use the word which you hate, Brian, because AI is truly revolutionary. It's a once in a generation kind of thing, and that's what's getting me really excited. Because I was actually a chip designer initially, and then became an accidental VC. I didn't want to be a VC. I thought VCs were the scum of the earth. I wanted to start a company, and I thought, no way, if I don't start a company, I'm going to have a VC near my company. But guess what? God has a sense of humor. And so I'm a VC now.
Sounds like your company did well.
No, I was born in Singapore, and my parents were a bit like, I think Suzanne's dad, and he basically said, look, I have 3 kids, if you want to go overseas, you have to make it on your own. So I got a scholarship from a Singaporean company, and they sent me that. And so I was very fortunate to live in Toronto and in California, and I worked as a chip designer in Silicon Valley, and then became a VC in Europe, setting up a Texas office in London. And then came back home to Singapore because my mom was ill, and that's when I started Daylight Capital. So I guess, when I first went back home to Asia, besides having love for my mom, I was, a really reluctant VC, and I was by now a jaded VC because people were trying to digitalize one industry after another, and I thought, OMG, we don't need a faster delivery. So, and now AI is great because basically, you're trying to do tremendous things. Basically, LLMs are made up of neural networks, and neural networks are formed effectively by neuron analogs. And so we're trying to get signals to be interesting enough to get that neuron or your neural network to fire. And basically, the inputs are then basically given weights. And so when you see today all these LLMs are growing in parameters, that's basically the number of weights plus biases. And basically now we're reaching something like 1.76 trillion parameters. So you can imagine the sort of math you have to do to multiply the inputs by the weights. So that's going to need a whole new generation of semiconductors to do that. And not just semiconductors, but the whole supply chain. You need to get, one chip doesn't do it anymore. You have now multi-cores, the Broadwell has 2 GPUs, and now I think servers has gone even more different. They have a wafer scale. So it's huge. So then it becomes what do you do next? You can't keep escalating, going into kind of like a war of LLMs, larger and larger parameters. How are you going to build it? So I think you also now need a whole new software in order to do that. So what we see is you can actually invest in the entire stack, from semiconductors to the data center, foundation models, data structures, and then the top of applications. And these are really companies using AI to disrupt the incumbent sectors. And
So, keeping it real now, we've been excited about technology.
Right.
Now we have to cut.
I'm not sure what that meant. Wait, it's great to see familiar faces in here, just so that I understand how many of you have heard me speak before? Okay, there's a lot that have not.
I count as 5 hands.
Okay, well, so I'll try to mix it up a little bit so that everyone gets a little bit of something. I'm really happy to be back. This is a really wonderful community, and also there's no clicker, so I'm going to have to manually click the person who's in charge of that, who is gone. Well, I can run over there. Just the arrows. I guess the right arrow. Yeah. So okay. Tiny bit of background about me. I've been doing AI research for 40 years, starting at Berkeley in 1984. Pioneered stuff that led to Google Translate, Bing Translate, Yahoo Translate, and this is my 3rd AI hype cycle. I had an Oppenheimer moment about 10 years ago. Everything in my life that I've worked on, whether it's the tech, AI, social impact, or as a musician, has been about trying to get different groups, different cultures, different tribes, subcultures to understand and relate to each other better. That's why I chose to apply the brave new world of machine learning, of natural language processing, which was my PhD thesis, to the task of translation. And about 10 years ago, I was really stunned to see that the same machine learning, natural language processing, AI tech that folks like me helped pioneer was getting deployed in ways online, in social media, in recommendation engines, and newsfeed algorithms, and chatbot responses, and search engines, to have the polar opposite effect of polarizing people, driving them apart, preventing people from understanding or even thinking about how to understand people who are on the other side, whatever that means. And so I really sort of dropped everything. Things that I was working on the technological side that I was super excited about, to focus only on the technological stuff and the public policy and public awareness stuff that I think is critical for humanity to flourish and to even survive the AI era. And like, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I do think that there is an existential threat. I don't think that it is Terminator, Skynet, coming to want to rule the world and destroy humanity. I think it is that humanity is going to destroy humanity before AI even gets a chance to. And it is because of how AI is interacting in two different ways in our ecosystem. So I'm just going to quickly talk about how to focus on the right problems, but with a message of hope on how we could actually tackle that. So can I advance this? Click. Thank you. Oh, updates for those of you who have heard me speak before. This is actually the first typeset galley proofs of the book that I have just 2 days ago returned my final edits, corrections on. It's coming out in the spring from MIT Press. It is going to be their top title, distributed mass market via Penguin Random House, because, and in the words of Jane Metcalf, and some of you may know her, co-founder of Wired magazine, she said about this, there are those of us who understand AI and who build AI, and then there's the rest of us. It's the new divide. This book is for the rest of us. So much of the general public is standing, bewildered, watching AI go by. What is this thing? It's like sort of this disruption. We can't have that. This involves the entire society. It involves all of us. That is the only way that we're going to flourish. It cannot be something that is just off in the distance. And I think we have ways of doing this if we understand it correctly. By the way, this book went up without the publisher telling me onto Amazon. Apparently you can all pre-order it already. Please do. And also, if you go to my website, just under the short bio, drop your email in the form there, because MIT Press has agreed to let me release part of this book to you for free, even before it officially drops. So please all do that before we finish here today. Click.
I find it very difficult. I ask people to do a survey, no one does it.
No one does it, yes. Okay, there will be a test.
Just
Do it
your
after.
expectations.
There will be a test at the end of this session. How many of you have done it? You can do it with your phone. My domain is the easiest one you have ever seen, dek.ai.
You were born for this, right?
I was born for this. That is literally my name. So, okay, why do I see the existential challenge? It's because AI is doing two things. One, it's polarizing us. It's causing all sides to like fear and hate and demonize, sliding into dehumanization of whatever the other side is. Remember, dehumanization is evolutionarily what allows members of one tribe to kill without remorse members of some other tribe. And you can say, oh yeah, well, humanity's always been that way, we muddle through it. But no, guess what? We never had also AIs at the same time placing commoditized weapons of mass destructions in the hands of anybody who wants. We are actually there. In 1 year, we went from 0 in Ukraine to mass production in the villages of lethal armed drone fleets that are armed with not just projectiles and missiles, now flamethrowers. And by the way, the RAND Institute had this report this past year pointing out how AI is also making it easy in your own living room to produce genetically engineered bioweapons. The billion-dollar CRISPR technology of the 1990s is now a living room technology. Imagine arming your mesh fleets of self-targeting, self-navigating meshed drone fleets with that. And now ask yourselves, would you make a bet that this massively polarized population, nobody is going to hit their launch button? Would you make that bet? That's a pretty bad bet, but that's where we are now. Now, I don't want to be
We had a
doing
discussion
how do we get
in
this?
London of where will society be, where will humanity be in 500 years? There was also a question, will humanity survive?
We need to do a radical change, a radical pivot culturally if we are to be here 500 years from now because of this. And so I'm trying to click.
And you have like 1 minute.
Yes. What the book talks about is how we have overlooked, in talking about misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, we have overlooked the biggest problem of all, which is like that empty quadrant there in the 2x2
We don't.
that nobody ever talks about. In the book, it's called it's called neg information. And what is neg information? It is not false. It is not circulated by a bad actor, which is the only thing that DC talks about nowadays because it's easy to drum up fear and hate. It is the negligence of the way the algorithms are now deciding not just what to show you on your screen hundreds of times a day, they're deciding what to never show us. They're deciding what to censor from us. They're what in the book I call algorithmic censors. And nobody, despite the social dilemma, despite the filter bubble, which was like a decade ago, nobody's asking the crucial questions like, what are the criteria by which our algorithmic censors should be deciding what to never show us? Because we have no idea what we don't know, but it is what we don't know that's going to kill us.
So Takai, we should give you a whole summit, like 5 hours. We probably will at some point. Now you're in this panel. So I need to ask you to pause and let's make it a little bit interactive and you can come back when we do the breakouts.
Yeah, totally. I was actually done. I just wanted to click to the conclusion. I would have been done if I could click. Not that one, the next one.
No.
That's what we're doing, and that was the end. So this is the hope. And what we're doing is talking with lots of folks in this community about how people can help pitch in on these different aspects.
Yes. And so I let him go this time. The first last time everyone didn't know what to say after he just laid that out. So questions, comments? Yes, Maria?
Yeah.
Well, you haven't asked a question yet. Go ahead.
No. Well, I'm curious, as you evaluate...
By the way, I have a microphone somewhere next to somebody. Does anyone know?
Which one here?
That one. Thank you.
I'm curious, as you look through disinformation or negative-information, how is this correlated to what we've seen over communication, over history, right? We've seen translation of documents, e-scrolls. The point of communication, the speed of communication has been, at centrifuge for most of our conflicts that we've had across humanity. How do you correlate? I'm just curious, AI with, the association of what we've experienced over the past, several thousand years.
That's a really good question. Humanity's always labored with hundreds of now well-researched unconscious cognitive biases. What I talk about in the book is not just those, but also the unconscious cognitive biases of the AIs. Because the AIs also have unconscious cognitive biases. And they're learning, the book is pointing out that those are our artificial children. You weren't watching, but they all snuck up and adopted you. You've got 100 little artificial children in that device you're carrying around with you 24/7. That's just learning from your behavior and reflecting it back into society, right? And as they learn from you, they're developing their own unconscious cognitive biases. And that interaction between ours and our artificial children's unconscious biases is a complex dynamic system that's creating a social psychology. In a society that's populated by not only human members, but probably about 100 times the number of artificial members of society already. And we're not thinking about how are we parenting them? How's your parenting? And if you start reviewing that, which the book does, you realize we're really falling down on the job right now. We're not doing any of the things that all of us would agree is good parenting. So imagine a civilization where we had collectively, all 8 billion humans in the world decided, oh, it doesn't matter how we parent our children. What would happen to that society? Fall apart in one generation, and that's where we are today, but we don't realize it. So these are the things that we can do about it.
Yeah, so I'm the founder of the Human Contract Foundation, and the Human Contract is about our human rights and our human responsibilities. So it's the constitution for humanity, how we support and how we drive to a planetary civilization the coming 100 years. And we're creating both, it's a both. Yeah, well, it was a comment. It was just a comment. So I'm looking forward to connect more and to talk about the human contract.
I just want to point out, AIs give us exponentially more power. When I, as a human, am making use of AI, it really exponentially amplifies my power. There's an old saying, with great power comes great responsibility. With exponential power comes exponential responsibility.
Yes.
Sorry. To what extent do you see AI becoming commoditized? I guess you should differentiate between simple AI and AGI. And if it is commoditized, to what extent does that diminish its economic value to the producer?
Oh, it is a great question. I mean, I think that one thing that I see people making a lot of mistakes today is that people think AI is whatever the flavor of the month is. Right now it's LLMs, huge ones. AI is a field of scientific inquiry, just like physics. There are thousands of different kinds of models that model different slices of observable reality, different kinds of intelligence. There are decades of history of thousands of kinds of AI that are not LLMs, and they're currently in the labs. We are combining the strengths of different kinds of AI models. And what you think of as AI next year is going to be completely different from what it is. So, you remember how shocked you were when ChatGPT dropped 2 years ago? At least for the people who don't do AI research. That's going to pale in comparison to what you're going to see next year. Like all the things people say, oh, AI can't do this, AI can't do that. No, I'm sorry, it actually can. And it is going to do that. And so like how we actually deal with that, it has to be in the framework of understanding that AI is going to be a very different thing.
So our other, before you, Gary just arrived.
Sorry about that.
Let me
Welcome, Gary.
So you missed the entire conversation, but
Yeah. Sorry about life. Sorry for you.
but you've been a great model. I had to take your role. Like, why don't you talk about how you see AI? You had a future of work at Singularity. You wear lots of hats.
Yeah.
AI as it impacts education and industries that you see.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I apologize, folks. So Singularity University is a global think tank founded by Peter Diamandis and Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil has plotted the exponential curve that we talk about all the time, the hockey stick thing. And so I've been serving for a number of years as the chair for the future of work. And so I look at the impact on the future of work, the future of learning, and the future of organizations. And as Dee, and you realize just how smart Dee is on these topics, so I'm only going to be gilding the lily. As Dee has pointed out, so you ain't seen nothing yet, because that exponential curve, what ends up happening is exponential technologies don't just all follow that curve, they accelerate each other. And so it's the fact that the infrastructure is building on existing cloud computing infrastructure, is building on existing telecommunications infrastructure. What has ended up happening is that first sort of layer of ChatGPT and its brethren and sister technologies will become a foundational layer that other tools, such as agentic AI, will be sitting on top of. And so the impact on work will be sort of lumpy. There will be particular areas where there's jobs that are sort of in the crosshairs. And then there'll be others that are very insulated. In the United States, about 60% of all jobs actually have an in-person component. They actually don't involve information all that much. So there'll be a lot of work that is not immediately and directly affected. But what is going to be necessary is that more and more organizations will be able to think of those tools not as human replacement tools, but as human augmentation tools. And so as you think of your investment profiles, if there's any one takeaway I would suggest is the more you can be thinking about how do we make sure no human gets left behind? Like, how are you investing in organizations that are trying to help humans to be able to leverage these tools? And it is a tool set. I'm sure I'm disagreeing with some people that in the language, but it's not your co-worker, it's not your AI employee, it's a tool. How those tools can help humans to be able to solve problems that they've never encountered before.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Some break? Okay. I always like new questioners. Hold that thought. Rainer?
What can humans do that AI can't?
What can humans do that AI can't? Today or next year?
That's a dangerous question.
I mean, look, I think LLMs are not good at doing reasoning. They don't have belief systems. They don't have a lot of, logical consistency checking and self-awareness reflection. But that's just LLM architecture. AIs in general, we've been working for 40 years on AIs that actually do that stuff. And when we combine that with LLMs, they actually can do that. You hear people talking about how AIs can't be creative. One of my research areas is actually computational creativity and music AIs. And we have papers dating back for the past decade showing how the basic, processes of creativity are actually implemented in AIs. So if you look at the history of studies of creativity, Margaret Bowden, for example, clearly we can. There you have other people that say, oh, well, human emotion is beyond AIs. Actually, emotion is much easier to model than higher level cognitive processes. If you know my dog, how many of you have dogs? They exhibit the entire gamut of emotions that we do, right? Anger, shame, sadness, anticipation, joy, fear, hate, all that stuff, right? It's just that AI scientists didn't bother trying to model that, right? And so, I know it's kind of warm and comforting and fuzzy feeling to say, oh, these are uniquely human traits, but actually those are fairly easy to model compared with the rest of it. So I guess what's behind your question is, what does that leave for us? Is that what?
Well, the follow-up question is, does AI need humans?
Well, so here's the question.
Because
Do
if
your
AI
children
becomes-
need you?
Sorry?
Yes.
When your children grow up, do they need you?
They need me, but then I die.
Okay. And so what do they do then?
Good debt.
Parents.
They become parents,
But
right?
AI could have children and have children.
Yeah. I think this is something that we need to understand, right? As a musician, for example, I recognize that AIs are going to shortly be better than me at almost everything. I mean, I pride myself in writing. I am very creative in my writing. But eventually AIs, within the next couple of years, will probably also get to that level of creativity. In terms of technique, there's no way humans are ever going to be able to compare. But does that mean that we're not going to care anymore to play music? No. I mean, just because Shakespeare writes better than me doesn't mean I'm not going to write. Just because somebody's a fantastic, orator doesn't mean that we're not going to have conversations. It's about that human experience, right? And so I think even with that AI stuff, we're going to end up in situations where people want to go to a live performance in a theater and see that interaction between humans. Just like right now, people love vinyl records. People love film cameras, analog film cameras, right? So I don't think the right question is what can AIs do, what can humans do that AIs can't do? Eventually that's going to be a very small nugget. But how does that matter in our human experience?
So what is left is the human experience.
It is the human experience.
Gary wants to answer this.
Let me just offer, I won't say counter perspective, but let me just say, if we all agreed on everything, that wouldn't be interesting, right? So first off, a lot of these technologies are very, very good at looking like there's a human on the other end, at creating. Is it creativity? I'll bow to the who's studied this quite a bit. The real issue is, when you think about the impact, is, so most of these tools automate human tasks, right? They're emulating, they take through the steps that humans used to go through in different arenas. Think about the impact overall on human work. Why do we pay humans to do things? We're problem solvers. We're very good general purpose problem solvers. And so the question is, well, as we start to automate more and more of the tasks that we used to do with these tools, will we as humans, when we hire other humans, will we continue to want to compensate humans to do things? And it's a very zero-sum mentality to be thinking about, this is all the work we do today, and if we automate a whole bunch of this stuff, then a lot of jobs go away. But robots and software don't take jobs. They automate tasks, and it's a human's decision if a job goes away. And if we don't have this zero-sum mentality, if we instead say, well, these tools are going to allow us to be able to solve problems we've never encountered before. We got a lot of problems out there. There's a lot of wicked problems out there. And if we think that we're in this box and we're going to automate everything in the box, then we're picturing it wrong. It's called functional fixity. And instead we think about how are we going to help our children to become these amazing problem solvers with these tools, to be able to encounter the most complex problems that we've faced as humans, and to be able to collaborate with others. That's the inspiration I want to offer. Is yes, there's going to be a lot of activities that are going to be automated, but it's the way we craft how we pay other humans to solve those problems that will determine what the outcome is.
But I just have to say, the frailty of human beings is very suspect.
In what way?
Well, Singularity University almost failed to exist because of the frailty of human beings, right? They almost went out of business.
Several times, as a matter of fact.
Google pulled their funding because of fraud, right? That was the big story.
I don't want to. I want
to. The frailty. I'm only it's the frailty of the human part that I think is going to be the problem that we face. We don't have the frailties of AI. Not, at least not yet.
Well,
not early on.
Well, no. That assumes that the tools are perfect. I mean, they don't just hallucinate; they lie. I mean, LLMs just have huge.
We're reaching a singularity in 2031. Isn't that what Ray said?
43.
So, Ray. Okay, so. I feel like we're going to go down a rabbit hole if we spend too much time on the singularity stuff.
Yeah, we could. I just want to keep
okay.
I have a question.
Human beings that you said will manage the AI, but we need it.
We'll leverage tools, software.
Our motives are questionable.
I think that's
true. And the software we create won't have questionable motives. Is that what you're
Correct.
thinking?
Not as much as the human frailty.
I think human bias. I think all of our biases and the processes that we go through are baked into the technologies that we make. I don't think we make perfect technologies ever. I mean, a Tesla will crash. It's not a perfect technology.
I would like to add a comment, if you will. You know, I was recently at my business school reunion, and some of the smartest people that I know were talking about AI and how it's going to remove substantial number of jobs in the next 5 or 10 years, or maybe next 2 or 3 years. And the saying was, AI is not going to take away your job. Someone using AI is going to take away your job. And it sounds all so wonderful. And people in that audience at Harvard Business School were just sitting there saying, wow, because it's coming so fast. And people in this audience are also digesting this and trying to figure out what does this mean. And the smartest, most well-endowed schools will be able to train kids to take advantage of this. And schools in most of our country are not ready to teach our kids how to adjust to this new reality that's coming fast. And then we have all those people who are going to lose their jobs, not just the blue collar, but the white collar. So I think there's all kinds of social issues, and I'm not a big believer in big government, but it sounds like we're going to get to a small government.
Recording in progress.
To the extent that government is going to be helpful to this pivot, I'm curious what people think. Not just is AI going to do something horrible with weapons, but how we're going to change our society. So, I mean, I think it's exciting, and we're trying to give our kids some tools to understand what AI means for them, how to position them, how to be excited about it. But how is this going to affect our society over 3, 5, 10 years?
Rich, my question kind of ties into what you just said. I mean, actually,
Can someone answer this?
well, I'm trying to, so I'm gonna ask,
I'm happy to address it.
no, Mark, I've been asking a question.
By the way, we have a breakout on AI.
But
We
hold
have
on,
a breakout on
let me
AI.
ask the question.
Well, we
because
gotta,
I've been asking a question for 10 minutes, but
you
it hasn't
haven't,
happened.
you haven't.
Okay, so here's the question, which follows on to what Rich was saying. So what I haven't heard so far is who's leading the pack here? Is it this AI, which, as you said, is coming from multiple sources and has the component potential of inference and so on? Or is it the human? How do these two interact, intertwine to ultimately deliver something more efficient and better? The human species, as we know it, has evolved quite slowly as opposed to rapidly, relative to what we're observing with AI. So how do these two meet? So the question is, how do these two meet? And the two components are the human being, whoever that master is, whether it's collective, government, individual, or group, and the AI. Individually, and as you pointed out, there's multiple AIs. So who's in charge here, and how does it move forward in a productive, cohesive fashion? That's the question.
Thanks for a simple question.
Thank you. Well, I'm the most simple guy in the room.
I'm going to take a quick crack at it, and then I'd love to hear
And we actually have one person that I invited, Peter, that is also on the panel.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so let me just give a quick crack at this. So I'm going to give you two endpoints. There's an endpoint that is the Silicon Valley narrative. I'm a child of Silicon Valley. I've worked for Silicon Valley companies and startups since 1983. So I'm guilty of being somebody that continually has proposed the Silicon Valley narrative. The Silicon Valley narrative is that AI wins. Yes, it's not a single technology, it's a basket of technologies, it's a marketing term that we put, but it's basically technology wins, and the people who own the technologies win because it's their robots and software, right? So that's one end narrative. And the other end narrative is, no, humans win, because we're in charge, and human systems and the ways we think about our societies and our economies, we're in control of. And there isn't some unseen hand that is telling us the way the technology impacts us. We get to control it. And so the challenge is that if we simply buy the Silicon Valley narrative, then the technology will always win. And the technology is flawed. It's deeply flawed in many, many different ways. It will do incredible things, many more incredible things. But Silicon Valley does not self-regulate. Silicon Valley is a little bit more like that unruly 3-year-old that just can't figure out how to get its emotions in charge, and it won't regulate itself. And so we need to figure out what that balance is, how humans stay in charge.
I gotta keep it going. You all get a chance to talk, and then we're actually gonna transition.
Yeah, I guess to both Tim's point and to the guy's point, I mean, we are also quite aware of the existential threat. And so I think one of the things that we actually need to invest in and develop alongside AI is actually how do you bring up these AI children. So alongside that stack, we very much believe that we should be investing in sustainable AI as well as responsible AI. And that alone, responsible AI is a huge word. I mean, right now it's still not well defined, but broadly I think it's about, for example, I mean, I don't really understand. I mean, I'm not a neural network engineer, I don't understand how these models work. Then I realized that the AI engineers themselves don't know how these models work. So basically there's a whole new field that needs to basically make the AI explainable, and also to make it also more trustworthy so we understand how it arrives at the results that it does, and also to the guy's point, and also to make sure that it's equitable in that it's not inherently biased from the data that you use to train it. It's not biased also from an algorithmic point of view. And these are huge areas that we need to be investing in and developing to make sure that the AI, as a whole, doesn't kind of go rogue, as it were.
By the way, you have to read Kai's book. It covers a lot of stuff.
Yes. Well, one of the things that we work in is education. And I think one of the things that we're not talking about right now is the human being, the people, the children that are going to be inheriting this next world and this next technology. And education really is what we're going to be putting this next generation into. What I look at with AI coming into the world is we say things like evil genius. right? The smarter. There's the capacity at a genius level to still use it for evil, but there's not evil kindness or evil empathy or evil self-awareness. You know, and we're looking at these core skills that are human beings, that we are born with. We can give them to AI. We can say, sure, here's a skill, but those are our own intrinsic rights as we're born. You know, we cry as soon as we hit the earth, some of us. And so when we're talking about emerging markets, education is going to be one of the key things, because regardless of what AI looks like in 50 years, we need to be preparing the people that are going to be behind the AI. And again, we are talking about IQ over EQ. We are outsourcing our IQ. We are outsourcing problem solving. We are doing all that. But how do we harness the capacity of the heart, the EQ, the person that is putting in the request to the IQ? And that is the next thing that we need to be investing in, which is why Andrew and I are currently in this, trying to figure out how do we do that? And how do we build a support system for our next generation that is going to be behind all of this amazing AI? But I want a person that has gone through a program that has learned about self-awareness and social awareness and responsible decision-making and empathy and kindness. And I want them to hit the next level of AI, because it's inevitable that they will. But who are the people that we are preparing? What are the life skills that they are going to be given? And I think we need to focus on that just as much as we're focusing on what AI is going to look like. Because right now it is being built out of humans on Earth right now that we are not sure what their genius is coming from. And I would rather it come from empathy and kindness than it does from some sort of evil genius. So, but you can control it. You can offer a solution. I appreciate your opinion, but when you're looking at the results that we're having within school systems right now with our program, you are seeing children that are making different choices in their communities, in their families, in their own lives, that is showing higher mental health, that is showing them being happier, healthier, whole. And I guarantee a happier, healthier, whole person is going to be building and contributing to an AI society in a way that a person isn't if they're in a negative space mentally. So there is ways that this can impact the world.
We have a whole breakout on AI.
Great.
So let's. I gotta.
I mean, I've been waiting for everybody to respond to both of those questions. Let me give me 1 minute on this, because I really fear that you're going away with the wrong message.
Okay. And then we got.
I have to commit to you. One, I was giving a talk or a keynote jointly with Jeff Hinton earlier this year. He's only started thinking, everyone knows Jeff Hinton is the godfather of deep learning, he just won the Nobel Prize, right? So I postdoced into his lab 30 years ago. And this was interesting because only last year when he stepped down from Google did he start thinking and talking about AI and humanity. And one of the things he said in his portion was, we gotta watch out that AI doesn't lose our autonomy to the humans, going to this point and to your point. And I said, sorry, Jeff, I'm afraid we lost that battle 10 to 20 years ago. And the very next day, he's writing back to me, oh God, I really enjoyed that pointed guy. That's really, you know, the best and brightest of us in Silicon Valley are not thinking about these problems. Correct. And that is why this book.
Or they do after they leave big tech.
Even then, he was saying the wrong thing. We need to understand that AIs, we have been raising AIs for the last 10 to 20 years already. And we don't program this, we get out of that frame. These are not tools that we program. And today you might think, oh, well, we run these massive training runs on LLMs and then they're frozen and that's what they do. No, that's not how it works. AIs are like kids, they continue to learn. You don't train the kid once and then freeze them. The AIs by next year, they're gonna just keep on learning and they're gonna keep on being parented by us. And so our frailties are going to be learned by them, not in one massive training run, but continuously. And that is why it is so important to work to use AIs, which are potentially the best possible tools we have, to improve the parenting, the EQ of the parenting, so that the AIs end up not learning the frailties of humans,
so
because
AI
they are
running
not
this
tools,
meeting,
it's an ecosystem.
They would run it differently. But the human frailty is in front of you. So, but Peter, who here has written a song for Madonna? Anybody?
I did, but she didn't record it.
Right. Peter, do you want to say a word? Yours? Oh, you can't. Oh, we're not connected to Zoom on audio. Can you need to like go talk to IT or something? Go talk to IT. There's an AI for that. All right, well then it's just us. The Zoomers will, and Peter, I'll deal with him later.
Which song?
Which side? He's written lots of. He also, like, his parents created the Monkeys, like the group and show. Really interesting guy. What he's doing with IP and creativity today and disrupting the model. So, the industry panel. Thank you, industry panel. Serenity, stay up. You can stick around because you can talk about this stuff too, like you did last time. And let's have Mary, Lou, Kay, and Streaker. Come on. Come join our 361 firm community of investors and thought leaders. We have a lot of events created by the community as we collaborate on investments and philanthropic interests. Join us.